Morning, everyone. I won't be in class today because we have a special guest speaker coming into STEAMM this morning, and I've been asked to attend that presentation. But I put together this video for you to show you what we're working on this morning in class for science and for everything that you need to do. For Monday, May 10th, we're still going to be working on our Keep It Hot project. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have all of the data about the different insulation types that we tested recorded on page 8. And I'll show you that in just a minute. We're going to be then using the Numbers app on your iPad to create a table and chart showing this data. We'll start by looking at how to create a data table to show the different insulation types and the temperatures that we collected. We'll then also take that data table and convert your data into a line graph that we can paste into your digital notebook. We are still in the Keep It Hot project notebook as we continue working on this project. If you think back to last Friday, we were on slide 8 and we actually went through and tested a series of different types of insulation to see how well that they would help keep water hot in a glass jar. All of that is found at the bottom here on page 8. If you have not completed this information yet in your notebook, I would encourage you to take a screenshot from this video and then make sure that you have all of this data for the glass jar, the foil, the bubble wrap, and the plastic, because this information is going to be transferred into the Numbers app and then been used to make a data table and a line graph. So if you don't have this information on page 8 of your notebook, I'll stop for just a moment. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this so that you can complete this data, because this will be very important. Okay, now using this data, let's take a look at how this will be used in the Numbers app. We're going to actually be creating a data table with this information as well as a line graph. So in the Numbers app, which by the way, you can see in my toolbar at the bottom there, it's a green icon with a bar graph on it. That's the app you want to open. Using the plus button at the top of the screen, you will have a variety of templates that you can choose from. So I'm going to just back up one step to show you that again. If you notice, I have up at the top where it says Numbers, I have a plus button here. I'm going to go ahead and touch that plus button, and the one that you're going to want is the table and chart. So go ahead and open that up. Now, once you open up that table and chart, what we're going to need to do next is we're going to need to make a few changes here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. First, this bar graph at the top is just a placeholder. We're going to be replacing that later, so go ahead and tap on that bar graph. You'll see blue bars come around the outside, and you'll also see a black bar come up with some commands. We want to delete that right out of there. Now, the next thing that we want to do is, you will notice at the bottom of the screen there, you have your data table. Okay. First thing we want to do is tap on where it says table, and we want to change that to insulation temperature. Okay, because that's what this data is going to show, the different types of insulation. Now, as you tap on each of these cells, let's start with the gray bar across the top. These are the different categories. So I'm going to delete out category A and change that to glass. Category B, I'm going to change that to foil because that was our second one. The next box will be bubble wrap, and the final box will be the plastic, the plastic which is made from the recycled water bottles. Now, you notice that there's some placeholder data in here that we don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and first tap on one cell, and then using the corner, drag those blue lines to cover all that data, and then I'm going to delete that right out of there. We don't need that. Where it says items, that's going to be our times. Remember, we tested each of these with hot water for a period of 5 minutes and then recorded how the temperature dropped. So I'm going to go ahead and take each one of those out of there because I don't need those. And you'll notice right beyond that last row where you see the blue highlighted number 6, there's 2 lines there, 2 blue lines. I'm going to use that to add some extra rows, because for our times we don't have enough space there right now. We need to take that all the way down till we get to the number 12. Okay, so what I'm going to end up doing with that is I'm going to end up putting in there my times. Okay, and so for my times I want to start with 0, then I want to put 0 and a colon and 30 seconds. That 0 colon 30 is important, because otherwise if you just put 30, it'll think 30 minutes. But then I'm going to put 1 minute, and I'm going to continue all the way down till I get to that 5-minute mark. Okay, so now I have a data table that is set up and ready to go. And so what I want to do with this is I want to go back to, from ClassKick, want to go back to this data right here, and each of these data sets I want to enter those in on the table. Now I'm not going to enter all of these, you'll be doing that, but I do want to at least give you one example. Okay, so if I go to glass, I'm just going to go ahead and start entering this data in. I saw at 0 the temperature was 62 degrees Celsius. At 30 seconds, it was 61.8. At 1 minute, it was 61. At 1:30, it was still 61. Next temperature I had was 60.4. Then I had 59.8, 59.2. And then if I continue moving on, 59.6, 57.8, 58.6, and finally 58.2. Now maybe you noticed that as I was entering this data, it changed all of those automatically. It formatted those, and it changed it to a rounded off number. So what I actually want to do is come up here and touch that little paintbrush at the top, and you'll see where it says number, and there's a little I for information next to that. I want to touch that. See how the decimals are set to 0? I want to just make that 1 decimal. And then by doing that, all of the data that I put in should change to the numbers the way we had it. So again, that was, I have to select the cells that I want. So I want to select all those where my numbers will go, my numerical data. Paintbrush, under number, and change that decimal. Instead of 0, change that to +1. Okay. All right. So at this point, guys, that's one of the 4 data sets. Now I'm going to leave that up to you to fill in the foil, the bubble wrap, the plastic. But what I'm going to need to do next is I want to show you how, once you get all that data in, how do you change this into a graph? Well, again, you've got to select the numbers that you want, the data that you want, and then up at the top, you're going to see that plus button. So when you touch the plus button, it's going to give you a couple different options. It's going to give you a place for tables, graphs, shapes, and images. I want you to pick the graph section. Now under 2D graphs, you can see a bunch of bar graphs. You've got some kind of region graphs there, pie charts. We want to use this double line graph down here. It's got a green line and a blue line. When I select that, you'll see that it graphs my data. Okay. Now, as you can see, the blue represents the glass. The green's going to end up being foil. You're going to have gray being bubble wrap. And I'm going to enter just a couple more numbers in here to show you, because as I start to enter now, 61.8 was my, 61.8 was my first data point for the foil. And then as I keep going here, I have 61. And you can see it's starting to populate my line in there for me as I enter that data. Okay, so 59.8, 59.8, and just keep right on going there and enter your data, and eventually you will end up with you'll end up with all 4 of your lines where we can make a nice comparison. Now, one of the things you're probably going to notice is when you get all 4 lines in, it's going to change your line graphs and they're all going to look kind of close together. So one other thing that you can do right at the end, if you're not able to easily see which line had the least slope, which line held the temperature the best, one other thing that you can do is you can go ahead and tap on the graph itself, and then again use your paintbrush there, and under, you see you'll have chart style, data, and arrange. Under data on the y-axis, we can actually change our range. Now right now, see it's set to maximum auto and minimum auto. What I would ask you to do is, if you tap in there on auto, just go ahead and make the maximum on the y-axis 65 and make the minimum 50. Okay, and then by doing that, that's going to give us kind of our range of where our data falls, and it'll help us to be able to see a little bit better how well they slope, and we can kind of go from there. Now keep in mind that I'm going to ask you on your notebook to paste these graphs in on page 9. So if I hold the home and power button here, and let's say that my graph is completed. Obviously mine's not done yet, but I'm just doing this for the sake of the example. I'm going to need both. So that would be a good screenshot there to save to photos. And then I also am going to need this. So I'm also going to need a screenshot of my data table. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that in there. Save that to the photos as well. Now, if I come back over here, that would be the final step. On page 9, you can see how a line graph's organized when we gather this data. We didn't use Google Sheets, we used numbers because it was actually a little bit better, but it's asking us to paste our data table and our line graph. So if I come down here, I'm going to choose from my photos. There is my data table. Okay, so I can paste that right in on my notebook. And obviously when you paste this, we would want yours to be completed. And then right below that, if I choose from my photos again, and there is, going to have to slide it down so they don't cover each other, but I would want this to be my completed line graph. So I'm going to put that into my notebook as well. So I've displayed my results with my data table and with my line graph. At the beginning of class on Tuesday, we'll have a little bit of discussion about which installation worked the best, and then we'll start to talk about our own prototype that we're going to be designing. So just to finish up, guys, this is your task for today, to make sure that your data on page 8 is completed here, and then using the Numbers app to convert that into the data table and also then into the line graph. If you have any questions about this assignment, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can send me an email and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. All right, thanks guys. Good luck and have a great day.